going to talk about multiplying and dividing integers. Before we do, please complete the table using your calculator. When it asks you to write the product as a repeated addition, they mean in terms of groups. So if you had 4 groups of 2, that would be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, which gives you the same result of 8. So try writing things as a repeated addition. I know you're not used to it, but it's a really good innate sense of what multiplication is. But this column here is the important one that we'll be talking about today. So pause the video and fill in your table. And your table should look like this. Hopefully you saw that this was a repeated pattern. 4 times 2 got you the 8, but 4 times a negative 2 got you a negative 8. 4 times 1 got you a positive 4, but 4 times a negative 1 got you a negative 4. So positive times a negative resulted in a negative number. Can you use that pattern to solve this without using your calculator and without writing down the repeated addition? Four times 3 gives you 12, and you saw from the pattern that a positive times a negative will yield a negative answer. So go ahead and fill in number 4 and fill in number 5. Pause the video. For number 4, you should have an answer similar to mine, where when the signs are the same and you're multiplying, your answer is going to be positive. However, when the signs are different, your answer will be negative, no matter which order they come in. So I will complete the table with you. 2 times a negative 4, because my signs are different, my result will be negative, and then you simply multiply the digits together. 1 times a negative 4 will give you a negative 4. 0 times anything will always give you 0, and here your signs are the same. You have a negative 1 times a negative 4, that will be a positive 4, and a negative 2 times a negative 4 will be an answer that's positive and 8. Some students like to make a table. We might say something like, when you have a positive number times another positive number, that will equal a positive number. Fill out the rest of the table for the other 3 scenarios. And here's what your table would look like. Again, when your signs are the same, your answer will be positive, and when your signs are different, your answers will be negative. Let's do a couple more examples. Letter A. I have 2 negatives. Well, I know automatically my answer will be positive. 7 times 4 is 28. You don't need to write the plus sign down. You can just leave your answer without it. Here I have 8 times the negative 6. Because your signs are different, your answer will be negative. And 6 times 8 is 48. Let's start off this page where you do these 4 guided practice problems. Pause the video and come back to check them. And that's what your answers should look like. Be careful not to rely on your calculator. Let's look at the example up here where we're asked to evaluate expressions. We know that evaluate means to substitute numbers in for the variables, but it gets tricky with negative signs. And the best thing I can tell you is when you see a negative sign out front of an expression, that it really has nothing to do with this negative sign that you might see in a number that you're substituting. So in this case, I'm supposed to take the product of m times n, and what that minus sign in front of it means is the opposite of it. So I will substitute in. I'm going to write down the negative that appears. I know that m is 5, and I'm told that n is a negative 8. Notice the green negative sign stays out front. You can multiply any way you want. You should see that you do have 2 negative symbols going on in there, so your final answer will be positive. But if you'd rather work in a different direction, just take the 5 times the negative 8. The signs are different, so that answer will be a negative 40. And really, this negative is still waiting. We haven't done anything with it. So a negative 40 really means the opposite of a negative 40. In other words, these two cancel each other out. Your final answer is positive 40. For letter B, you can see that you're supposed to take n and cube it. Well, n is a negative 8. So that negative 8, the entire thing is being cubed. You have to use parentheses here or you'll get the wrong answer. Remember that 3 means that I'm repeatedly multiplying a negative 8 by itself 3 times. Your final answer in this situation will be a negative number, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And this positive result times this negative one will yield you a negative answer. Negative 512. You try guided practice 6, 7, 8, and 9 and watch out for your powers, understand what they're doing to your signs, and watch out for those negative signs in front of an expression. Pause the video. Notice that when I'm taking a power, that I'm using the parentheses. You could always use those, even if it was a positive number. It might ensure that you get the answer right, especially when you're using a calculator. But it's more important to understand the fundamental idea of a repeated multiplication of a negative number. You'll be happy to know dividing integers, the rules for the signs are exactly the same as they are for multiplication. If you take two numbers that have the same sign and multiply them together, your result will be a positive answer. If your signs are different, you will have a negative answer. I'm going to fill in the table using division instead. Here's what that table would look like. Again, when your signs are the same, your answer is positive. And when your signs are different, your answer is going to be negative. So doing some examples down here at the bottom, I have two negatives that are being divided. I already know my answer will be positive. 36 divided by 6 is a 6. Letter B says 27 divided by negative 9. I already see my signs are different, so my answer will be negative. Letter C, negative 42 divided by 7. My answers or signs are different, so I will have a negative answer. And more examples, a negative 54 divided by a negative 6. Because my answers are the same, it will be positive. 14 divided by a negative 2. Well, my signs are different, so my answer will be negative. Do these guided practice problems and come back and check them. Pause the video. And here's what those answers should look like. Always remember, if you have any questions or you're confused, you need to find a teacher. We're here to help.